I'm Joe Torrance. I'm the technical director here for Jack today. Go ahead, Jack.
Now, we're in the meeting with Cheryl, and this is Cheryl Guy. I met her quite recently. I heard about her from internet and all kinds of things that have gone on in Antrim County and in the country itself. I have relatives that are very interested in the election process, and they don't have much confidence in the election process. So, Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you.
I want this to be comfortable, and I didn't like the way the Tea Party was portraying themselves as being patriots when the original Tea Party was a rebellion against the central government. That when they threw the tea into the Boston Harbor, and then this tax revolt called it themselves a Tea Party, which 150 years ago, the Tea Party was they were objecting to the stamp tax of trying to the king was trying to get revenue off the counties, and the counties said, no, we're not paying this, right? So it was a rebellion, and but now the Tea Party concept is kind of almost like a patriotic thing, where rebellion against the central government is our government, right? The
Right.
U.S. government. And so I think that we need to get back to the kind of a Tea Party where we talk about whatever's interesting, and it should be friendly, even if it's controversial. So
Hey,
anyway.
Jack, hold that thought for a sec. We have to put a mic on her. So I'll be in
Oh,
there in a sec. We forgot to do that. And you do have one attendee right now if you want to say hi. Their name
okay.
is A.E. Porter.
A.E. Porter, that is a name that's known to me, and that's Ann, and she can write in questions. I did speak to Ann earlier, and we're still broadcasting, and Joe didn't want to be on camera,
But he's on
but
camera.
he should have put the mic on our guest.
And is A.E. Porter related to you?
Yeah, she's my sister. I wasn't going to admit that because she can't be as radical as she might want to be now that they know who she was. But there's no way for her to be recorded. She can type in messages and we
Okay.
can respond. But I think her questions are the same as everybody else. It's like,
Okay.
let's go back to this agenda so we can say what this meeting is about. Okay, well,
Technology.
Cheryl, you're wired up now, and thanks for being with us. And I had Antrim County was the lone holdout. All these lawsuits that came up challenging the election in general and Dominion, but really it was kind of slanderous to the whole process to say that there was, like in Michigan, we have how many clerks in charge of elections? There must be about 1,500.
There's
different-
83 county clerks.
Right.
There's about 14 to 1,500 township clerks. And then you have village clerks.
So there's maybe 1,600 clerks that have something to do with elections in Michigan. And if there was a conspiracy to slant the election in favor or against a candidate, that would be known. I mean, there was election workers all over, not just 1,600 clerks,
Right.
1,600 people in charge. And then they've got anywhere from 5 to 50 people working for them.
Right.
Right? So there's literally thousands of people that would be in a position to know about conspiracies.
Right.
And if somebody was conspiring, I was listening to the radio, and there's a guy that's sounds like he's conspiring on the radio to get enough people to get absentee ballots but not vote the absentee ballots, and then he could file a class action suit. And so there's a lot of challenges to the system even today. So anyway,
Yes,
this is what I think we should talk about, and I gave you these subjects before, but I want you to comment. We could just, I'm going to say them. So like, what's a normal election? How is a presidential election different? How is this 2020 election different? And what happened in your particular election that became so famous? And when did the lawyers get in? And when did the media and the politicians start weighing in on it? What was the Dominion, role of Dominion here? That is the company that makes the voting machines. So was it a voting machine problem, or was there some kind of conspiracy? That's what we want to get into a little bit, and it's really quite complex. My sister asked me a couple questions, and 5 minutes later I was still talking.
yeah. And you can talk about it for a good long time.
Yeah, but we wanna boil it down to a point where what happened is perfectly logical, and it's really the only thing that could happen when there's a screw up, right?
Yes,
And when I was township supervisor, I was on an election commission, which was the township clerk was the chairman, and then the treasurer and the supervisor were the board members.
yep,
And we were theoretically supposed to check each other, but that usually didn't come up because the clerk ran the elections and we were happy,
yeah, yeah,
So a lot of people don't realize that there is a board at each township level that oversees the clerk, and there are people watching all the time, right?
yes, yes, that is true. And
So let's go back to the end of this share. Any more comments on this? Yeah, we want to get into this one. Are elections safe now? But we'll cover these as we go. We'll stop the share, and let's get back into this now. So what's the county clerk do?
the county
Yeah,
clerk is in charge, is the administrator of elections, and they work with the 15 townships that I have, 'cause I
right.
work
You
with
have
them.
15,
I
and
have 15.
you have other responsibilities besides elections, right?
Right, I oversee vital records, which is birth, death, marriages.
Mhm.
I'm the clerk of circuit court, family court.
You're responsible for the record keeping of the
Yes.
courts?
Yes, for circuit and
Wow.
civil, criminal, and family.
Okay.
We do the concealed license permits. Uh, we serve on many boards, and we have secretarial duties to many boards as
So
far as taking minutes.
so let's say you got a committee of the county commission. You're responsible for the records of that committee as well?
Right. Are you
Okay.
speaking of the Board of Commissioners group,
Well,
or is election commission?
Anything at the county level?
Okay, yes. Matter of fact, the election commission consists of the probate judge, the county treasurer, and the county clerk. So
Okay.
that is a committee, and I organize and take minutes for that
So
committee.
you're the chairman of that three-person committee, just like a township clerk is the chairman
Right,
of.
right.
So there is an election commission
Yes, countywide.
everywhere,
Yeah.
basically.
For each county has to have an election commission. They review the proof ballots and sign off the ballots.
Okay. And then what else does the clerk do? Did we cover most of it? Do you do accounting like a township clerk does?
Accounting and payroll were in our office until the end of August.
Okay.
Upon my plan to retire, to organize and get set up for me being retired, they transferred that to the administration office and finance.
Okay. But we're gonna get into that. I mentioned it at the beginning that we had an agenda and you were gonna retire, but then and now you're gonna be a candidate again. So,
Now I'm a write-in candidate.
okay, we'll get to that at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
okay? And but mostly, how is an election administered? What's the difference between a presidential and just a normal election? And what made the 2020 election different?
Well, presidential is really election on steroids. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of ballot position, candidate position proposals on a regular election cycle. With the presidential primary, usually it is the candidates for president. And, you know, in Michigan, you have to declare your ballot being Republican or Democrat.
Okay.
You can have proposals on that particular race, on that ballot, that election. And it's pretty straightforward. But in 2020, it was straightforward as well. We got through the primary, no problems.
Okay, well, it was a pandemic though, wasn't there?
Oh, we were in the middle of COVID-19. We had reduced workers. We had buildings shut down. Couple staffing. Had medical issues that were not COVID related that reduced their hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I was trying to get my license renewed by the state of Michigan. I'm a real estate appraiser, and you can't work without a license, and they held me up for 6 months.
Yeah.
The 6 months I came back from China in October of 2020, and during that period, I couldn't get my my license because they were just busy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough time to do a presidential election.
It was
Yeah.
it was a very tough time.
Yeah. And what happened? One of our notes, it's like, what happened to the ballot? I mean, you had a ballots, you put out proofs to everybody that has an interest in this election.
Right.
You show them the ballot language, and that's when the wheels started to come off the wagon, right?
Well, what happened is we sent out proof ballots for the general election, and a gentleman in Mansalona did not get one. He called because his neighbor did get a proof ballot. And what happened is that particular township did not send us his affidavit. So we didn't have him to put him on the ballot. So
Oh.
therefore, that is an October change, and therefore we had to submit his name to Election Source to add him to our ballot
In October,
in October.
because you had an election in August, right?
Right.
And that sets your ballot up. And all the candidates that won the primaries were known.
Right.
And then you put the ballot out to everybody. Did we spell your name right and everything? And one person in my particular township wasn't on the ballot.
Right.
So you had to, and that means all of the machines were wrong too, right?
Well,
I mean,
what
the paper
happened-
wasn't there, but you had to create a paper ballot and then put it in the machines, right?
What happened is we had to pull the ballots that were issued to Mansalona for Mansalona Village,
Ah,
because it's a village position which does not appear any sooner than the general election, because it isn't a party affiliated position.
there's no partisans
No,
in village
Villages,
elections.
correct. So once we got him on, we updated the Mansalona ballot, the Mansalona tabulator card, but what we didn't do is we didn't pull back the other 14 for
Well,
the countywide,
Intuitively, why would you have to?
so that they would all drop into the correct file of the unofficial election night reporting system.
Okay, so there's,
In a
now,
nutshell, that's what happened. They
in
dumped into the
computers,
wrong cell.
yeah, we've got file folders, right?
Mhm.
And they're all numbered
Yep.
like paper files, right?
Mhm.
And what was the township that was like all Republican that generated a whole lot of votes for Democrats or, I mean, when it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't pay attention to that
Oh.
portion of it just because we were so dramatized by the situation
Oh, okay.
and trying to get through it, to get it fixed, we were just on the phone all the time. We were on the phone, we were in meetings, we were taking, emails and just trying to fix it while we were trying to talk to our public.
So you updated, just to get the chronology right, election, the week before the election, you updated the computers?
Just short of a month prior, we updated the Mansalona ballot
Okay.
to the new ballot. But we didn't pull back the other 14 townships.
And when you take a ballot out of a paper ballot, let's say call it a file folder.
Right.
If you had 16 townships and county, and say there was 20 file folders and they're all numbered 1 to 20, and you pull the middle one out.
Yeah, that's exactly.
When you put the data in, it's not going to go into the right file folder.
That's exactly basically what happened.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
But when did you find out that that's what happened?
Okay, so Wednesday morning, we left work at 5:30 in the morning, which is pretty normal.
Now, for presidentials, the clerks.
Well, it was the general
helpers
election,
all-
yeah. We
all
work
have to
until
sit-
we're done and we all leave together and
And
we try
people
and
want
make
that
sure
information.
they're-
Yeah.
they're wanting that information. And it's unofficial and it's posted as unofficial.
Right.
So when we went home to take a shower to come back to work, I received an email saying, your numbers are looking odd. And I went,
So that's the answer to that question. When did you
Yes.
find out that all was not
8:14 in the
well?
morning.
8:14.
Yep, in the morning.
After your 2 hours of sleep,
Oh, we did not sleep. We just simply come home and
what a mess.
I might have watched a little bit of news to see what other results were. But basically, when you're working your election, you're so busy, you don't pay attention to your numbers so much unless you're really looking
Right.
for a hot race.
Yeah. Right.
And rarely, unless it's our
Because the
local.
primaries decide in an all
They're-
Republican county, the primaries decide
Exactly.
who's going to be.
Exactly. So yeah, we quickly came back to work. We called Election Source, who provides us with our software. And quickly they came to the determination that that is what's happened. And then, immediately we knew we didn't pull in all the 15 cards. We only
so-
fit
so-
one card.
So the company said, okay, what did you do, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
because
it
there's
was-
nothing wrong with the company's computers, right?
Well,
Except
it
it
was
was-
just horrifying to be in that position and immediately have, by the time I got into the office, I mean, the phone's ringing off the hook.
Oh.
And
yeah.
then complainers and then threateners and then, just all kinds of people. We had a meeting with the prosecutor, we had a meeting with our attorney. I mean, it just was very chaotic.
Well, now you're in a Republican county. To be
Mhm.
county clerk, you've got to be a Republican, right? I mean, that's.
Well, I was
As a
then,
practical matter, you run
Right.
on a party, it's a party position.
correct.
You could be a Democrat or Republican or independent, but
Absolutely.
if you got to be a Republican if you expect to win, right?
That's correct, but once you're in office, you're for everybody.
It's a non-bias, you're supposed to be non-biased because you're
Right.
handling elections for everybody, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now when did did the company make the corrections? What happened?
What happened is they determined what the correction what happened, and then it was up to us to get those reports to actually key in ballot by ballot. And when you go ballot by ballot, then you're going candidate by candidate, and you're flipping in and out of each race, updating and saving before you move to the next one, update and save. So because we were under so much stress,
And no
the
sleep the
more
night before.
harder we worked,
Yeah.
the harder it was to get it right.
I was involved in that probably I think it would have been 86. Um, no, it was 80, 84, 88, probably 1988 when we went over to paper ballots that we'd scanned through and they didn't darken in the
Oh.
ovals properly. And we didn't know to do that. We used pencils or pens or
Mhm.
whatever we had, and the scanners didn't scan properly. So I hate all these people are gone that were involved in correcting it because it's what 40 years
Yeah, a
later.
few years back.
And there was just a mob of people changing the ballots, going in and finding this is darkened in with a pencil, but it didn't scan. So you put a black magic marker
Oh,
on it,
right.
and you put the dots all over. So, and that's supposed to happen with a Republican and a Democrat.
Correct.
And when I realized what a mess it was, and the clerk was very defensive, she was in the same position
Yeah.
you were in.
Right.
4 years ago, you were in that position, and it had happened to us too.
Yeah.
And I was on the election commission, right, for
Yeah,
the clerk,
and-
treasurer, and the supervisor.
Yes.
And I looked at the clerk and I said, "Do you need me to be here?" She says, "No, you can go home." I said, "Please go home."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I trust you. I don't.
Yeah.
I'll just go home." She said, "Okay." And sure enough, it all got done
Right.
properly, and they were all honest people. And I just want to say, what I've seen, all of these people working elections are honest. I mean, 99.9. I don't know if Giuliani and that Sydney person, if they ever worked elections, I would question their honesty. But I've never had a problem thinking that these people are slanting things,
No, and I never have either. The election inspectors, are highly skilled. Their integrity is of the utmost. And they're just doing their job to run a fair, honest election.
Yeah. And you're confident that Antrim County's election was fair in the end.
Oh, it was fair.
And how do you know that?
I know that because once, we went back in and worked hard to get all of those votes off of all of those tapes, which were the original tapes all along, from the tabulator on election night. The only one that changed is Central Lake, who had to be retabulated, and that was retabulated in front of the canvassers under their authority.
So there's at the county, well, obviously all the townships are watching, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the county election committee, which was the judge and you and treasurer, they were watching. And then after you did your thing on election night, basically, you worked with the Dominion voter machine company and the canvassers, but you were out of it. The canvassers took over, and they're the ones that certified the election, right?
Well, they're the ones who do certify the elections. The tabulator tapes are the tabulator tapes. We had to make sure that once we had gone into election night reporting, that those tapes were equal exactly to the reports. And, when I say we're in there working, going in and out of each position, each candidate, each vote, from each jurisdiction, which some of them had multi, we have to flip in and out and save. and then go back to it or go back to the next one. And it is very tedious work where we learned when we had the overage vote, it was because we had double published a jurisdiction. Because we didn't know when we went over there and wrote over and saved it, that it wasn't just replacing it, it double published.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't know we had to
With
delete it.
computers, normally you would expect the old file to be replaced by the new
Yeah,
file.
exactly. You would think you were writing over it rather than adding a second. You have
But a
to,
computer error is much bigger than a human error,
well, and
right?
you're not looking for a mistake when it looks good.
Yeah, yeah.
And, it's kind of like, kind of that hidden, you don't see it
Yeah.
until it spews out a report.
We've got a question here that somebody came up with. That this might relate. Why does Michigan have more voters than we have citizens of voting age? Do you have any idea how that might happen?
Okay, it is because we live in a tourist area.
Oh,
We live in a tourist area that people come and go, they fluctuate in and out, and they may register to vote and then they don't dissolve or
oh,
end it. Also, if people die in other states, if that
Well,
state doesn't talk to Michigan, or we don't know or have a death record, we can't remove anybody without proof.
oh,
But you'll find that
that's in
in
your office death records, right?
the local county death records are.
Uh-huh.
And we get notices from other counties if our people die in their counties. But if they die when they're in Florida this winter, we may not know that because one state might not talk to the state.
I see.
And people who work in the voter registration file is the Secretary of State's office, the county clerk's office, and the local clerks.
Mhm.
And in order to remove somebody, you have to go through two federal election cycles, and then you proceed to a countdown procedure according to law. So you can't just remove
can't just
people
remove
because
people.
even
Yeah.
if you know it, you can't do it.
Okay.
So generally
And
speaking,
then if I register to vote in like Arizona, well, they've been in the news, right?
yeah,
Maybe they aren't going to tell you that I'm in
Well,
Arizona now.
they should be talking to the Secretary of State through the Secretary of State's office on, driver's license, voter registration. So, some of them talk to each other and work with each other and some do not.
Oh, okay.
There's not 100%, communication between all the states.
Oh, okay.
So you can be bound to have additional voters. And your young people, maybe it's your college kids that come to Antrim County to work
Right.
because there's additional jobs and of course, they're probably gonna, they may get a driver's license.
Oh, okay. So people
And-
get wherever they get a driver's, that complicated things too. Now
Yeah.
the state of Michigan is
Yeah,
giving voter
Registering to vote,
registrations to
yes.
people too. So
yes,
so that falls on the local clerk to try to keep track of who's a legal voter and
right.
who's not.
And that happens in college towns too, where you have your young kids coming to school and they'll do their drives.
Well,
to
that's
find
a good
people,
answer to that question.
Registered voters, sure.
Because somebody would say, well, why is it we have more voters than we have people of voter age? And that's why there's a turning of 5 or 10% all the time, right?
Well, sure. And you'll find that in your touristy,
Yeah, like
Leelanau County is a fine example. They have more voters higher than Antrim County, and it's because they're such a tourist town too.
I see. Let's go on. Let's go. Let's see if we can get back to that. Share. Yeah, I'm starting to learn this.
Yeah.
And Jack, there are some more questions there if you want to answer them too. It looks like there's two more questions.
Oh, okay. What are they now?
You'll have to go back to stop your share and then go back to your question screen
I can
there.
see, I can see something, anonymous attendees. What are you doing to ensure that everyone is a legal US citizen? This goes to the immigrant question.
Yeah.
Uh, Do you register immigrants to vote?
In the Antrim County Clerk's office, we register nobody to vote.
Oh,
They
okay.
either have to go to the Secretary of State's office or to their local clerk.
Oh, okay. So there's like, if there was a conspiracy to put immigrants on the ballot, they would have to go through 1,500 clerks, right?
Well, the state of Michigan, when they're getting their driver's license,
Oh.
that is where that would be determined.
I see. So theoretically, yeah,
Yes.
okay. So you just get notified by the state of Michigan when that happens. Joe, do you see any others that,
Yeah, there are two more questions after that. If you scroll down,
part of this?
The clerk's responsibility is to keep the.
What are you doing to
qualified voter file.
ensure in the QVF is a legal US citizen?
We just did that one.
Qualified voter, right? Okay. The clerk's responsible to keep the QVF. The clerk's responsible for keeping the Q. They are responsible to clean the rolls if people move or die. There is no count
If someone
done,
dies.
apparently. Well, we answered that one too, right?
Right, the local clerks, they work with the qualified voter file just as well as the county. And what we do with our people is because we have Meadowbrook Medical Care Facility,
Oh, well,
that's where our death records come from. 90% of them, unless it's a horrible accident, on our roads within our county, and they're pronounced dead in our county.
okay, here's one at 333 that I'm not able to, here, let's see if we can blow this up. There should be no issue with tourist towns because once someone moves, they should be registered in their new location and be removed from the old.
Who's to say that they change their driver's license and re-registers? And if they're moving out of state, I don't know what state's requirements are when you're getting a driver's license. Do they ask you to register?
Yeah,
And if you don't re-register to a new place, it wouldn't cancel out Michigan's.
right. Okay, Joe, I think I lost the camera here for some reason.
right now we're seeing you and her. You've stopped your
That's
screen
what we want.
share.
That's
Yeah.
what we want. Okay, we're done with the agenda anyway. We'll hopefully, I've got a screen that looks like it's gonna pop up any new questions that come in, so I think we're
Okay.
good to go.
Okay.
So, when did the lawyers get involved in the lawyers and politicians? I mean, this, and then in the news media, that was a totally different thing besides managing elections. I mean,
Right, that was instantaneous. I mean, immediately the county's attorney came in, to try and figure out what happened. Meanwhile, the group of people are at the prosecutor's office trying to, figure out what happened. And, we're meeting with the prosecutor, we're meeting with our attorney.
wasn't there a congressman that was setting up appointments for something for the litigation or?
Well, that was after the lawsuit was filed, Bailey
Oh.
versus Antrim County, and I believe it was on December 4th.
Oh, I didn't know I had,
On December 4th, at 5:25, that the order was signed to allow for forensic testing to be done, and that was court ordered. So on Friday night, Mr. Bailey called me at home saying, did you know? Well, I didn't know because it was 5:30 and we were closed.
oh, okay.
So he knew. So I guess it was Saturday sometime, we were still trying to figure out and accommodate this forensic testing to get it done, get it over with, and hopefully before The building was back open, because COVID was going on. We didn't want our employees intimidated by people flying in from other states.
I'm sorry, my phone went off. Was this the Bailey that wanted to be on the Mansalona Village Council? Or was that the original guy's ballot that had the problem, or was somebody else?
Well, it was Bill Bailey who filed the lawsuit against us,
Oh.
not knowing whether or not his ballot had counted.
Oh, okay.
And he was not eligible to vote on the village proposal that, had,
Oh, there was village business
yes.
that affected him, and
yes, well,
And-
he
and
wasn't
he was-
eligible, but he filed the lawsuit and,
okay, let's skip all of this legal mumbo jumbo.
Okay.
You've had a bunch of lawsuits,
well,
and
I've had two.
you've had, oh, okay.
I had the Bailey lawsuit against Antrim County, and then I had the Randy Bishop lawsuit against Antrim County, being the commissioners, the sheriff, and the prosecutor.
Okay, but what wasn't Trump claiming that there was fraud in Antrim and 60 or so other?
Oh, definitely.
Counties?
Yes, he did.
That was litigation that affected you, right? I mean, or did it?
Well, it did because he was using Antrim County as a sample of what he was hoping to find widespread.
And that's what I heard, that if you want to know if there's election fraud, just look at Antrim County. That's what people were saying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the fact is, it was counted many times, right?
It was, we talked earlier about the double publishing, and then we talked about getting the numbers right. The tapes were right. Central Lake retabulated, they were right.
Mhm.
The reports matched the original tapes. And then the state came in December, and we did a county-wide recount, hand count
Oh, yeah.
of the presidential race.
Mm.
And I believe that resulted in maybe Trump getting 11 more votes and Biden a couple of votes. But that was a hand count that was ran and videotaped by the Bureau of Elections.
Okay. So the Dominion was accused of tampering with the elections and directing votes to Democrats. I think that's the allegation, right?
Well, originally they were trying to say that it could be flipped.
Oh,
And
that the machines that Dominion used could flip the election in favor of somebody if they wanted to, right?
that's how I understand it.
Okay. You don't believe that's
No.
even possible because there's so many personalities involved that would have to
Yes.
be aware of it, right?
Well, you'd have to have everybody on board from all your election inspectors all the way through. And that's just not going to happen with the security and the processes of your Republican and your Democrat working together on every step of the elections.
Yeah.
It's
So-
it's not like you're all Republicans in here working or you're all Democrats. It's one and one.
Well, these legal women voters they're not even partisan. They're in the middle of these things too. Right? They have forums and stuff, and they make it a point not to be partisan.
Well,
So-
and what it is, they're promoting getting out to vote.
Mhm.
They're promoting education, learn what's on your ballot, learn about and double check dis and misinformation and how it's being brought to you.
I think there's far more misinformation than I've ever seen. Is that your experience too?
It is. And matter of fact, I had done a letter to the editor advising residents in Antrim County to study, what they're going to be voting on, watching out and doing some backtracking and double checking because, misinformation or disinformation, are two different things.
Disinformation is an intentional lie, right?
Yes.
Misinformation is, we just don't know. What if
Right.
those machines were
Or let's say that
crooked?
the heading was really strong, but when you looked into the body of the article, you
Oh,
couldn't find that strong heading that they used to get your attention.
right.
So
Well, that's
you need to fact check.
we had a whole lot of publicity about an Ohio town where the immigrants were supposed to be eating the neighbors' cats and stuff.
Mhm.
And that created a lot of attention. And the guy who made that up admitted that he lied just to get attention from the media.
Meanwhile, lives are being ruined and nobody cares.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people care, but they're just too shy to say anything, you know?
Well, and maybe so, or they're really strong, opinions, or you don't care.
Mm-hmm. I think, in my experience, people care, but they don't want to be the object of abuse for stating their opinion. And I lived in China. That was supposed to be totally controlled speech, but I found that you could pretty much talk about whatever you wanted as long
Oh.
as it wasn't Tiananmen Square
Right.
or Taiwan or oh, there was another one, Tibet.
Oh,
And but those were the hot button issues that you weren't allowed to talk about. But nobody would get in my face if I stated an opinion that was different than the party line, right?
yeah.
But you come back, when I came back here, I found that everybody was the thought police. You know, if they say, "What's your opinion about the election?" And they say, "Well, if a Democrat asks me, I'll say, well, I don't share my opinion." "Oh, you must be for Trump then,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if a Republican asks me, I don't share
Vice
my,
versa,
you must be
yes.
a Democrat.
Right.
Or you're an independent, well, you don't have an opinion then, right? You're not a participant. I mean, it's like there's a conflict. You know, every Thanksgiving dinner,
Yes,
you got
yes.
kids that different opinions from their parents. We had that in Vietnam. That was a problem, but it's worse now. The
Yes.
people seem to be suppressed. What killed me, I had veterans come up to me and tell me that, you know, your board should do this or do that. And I say, well, listen, I can't tell the board what to do. They're independent. I need people in the audience to stand up and say, the board should consider this or consider, would you be willing to do that? And this was a veteran that I knew had been in combat, and I knew he had risked his life, and he was not a coward.
Right.
But no way would he get up in front of a group of people and expose himself to the kind of ridicule.
Right.
And I think the people that, you know, are politicians, I think a politician is the only live human being that is a connection between the US Constitution and the policies that get administered. And sure, you can hire lawyers and go to court and stuff like that, but when it comes down to it, the people we call politicians are the ones that when they get elected, they administer the policies and the laws. And that's an important job. And if somebody aspires to be president of the US, it shouldn't be a dirty word, you know?
Right.
I've never heard anybody say that. He grew up in a poor neighborhood, but he got to be president of the US, and that was high praise.
Yes.
But now nobody says, You don't hear that.
No.
Somebody getting to be president is not a good thing, you know? The country is changing in a negative way, I think.
And nobody is respectful. I mean, you may think it, but do you say it?
Yeah,
Being respectful and tolerant and knowing that maybe you can agree to disagree,
yeah,
but that doesn't mean you spew
crap, yeah.
over and over and over.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where the more you hear it, the more you believe it. And
Well, yeah,
not
and-
everybody's gonna believe it, but there are those few people in the room who will,
Right.
and then they're gonna run with it.
And right now, I mean, they mobilize public opinion against somebody is that's a real threat. You know, was it Romney was talking about he backed off of his public involvement because he didn't want his family threatened?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it's
It's dangerous.
a real threat.
Politics have become very dangerous.
You could blame it on Trump being controversial, but there's been two attempts on Trump.
Yes.
I
Well,
mean, this
and
is not a one-sided deal.
No.
This is happening in both parties, and they're repeating lies in order to get people angry and motivated to go after the other side, right?
right.
So, yeah, let's get back into this.
Okay.
You're a candidate. Did we cover this election thing? I don't know if you've ever had a chance to
Well,
really.
I just
Hey,
know
Jack, you
that
do have a couple more questions there if you want to answer
Oh.
them or not.
Yeah, what are they now? Where are they?
change of address documents are
Oh, down
an
there. Okay.
acceptable form of voting, verifying address. That's
Well, which one
correct.
is it that you're
That
doing?
right, just above that one. There,
Change of address documents are an acceptable form of verifying address.
take those documents with you to your local township clerk, and she can update your address in the qualified voter file.
And then
And
that,
then she would give you a receipt with a changed address.
and notify where you came from, right?
Right.
That's the
Well,
important thing.
and the thing is if you are in that local township, your old address will show up. But you will want to tell the local clerk your new address if it's within that same township.
Okay. And then what's the next one? Law does not say the clerk is only responsible for removing people in the county. They keep the rolls active. Yeah, that's correct. Right? Did you give Haldeman access to your equipment to do an investigation to complete the Haldeman? I don't know what.
That is the gentleman who did the report after Allied Security System came in and did the forensic report,
Okay.
which was ordered by our circuit court judge. No, I had no communication whatsoever with Mr. Haldeman. The state of Michigan, I believe, hired him, and
Oh.
any discussion that happened at the county level was the county administrator's office that dealt with them.
Oh, I see. So he was an official of
He's
the state of
another
Michigan
specialist, yes.
that was sent in to.
Yeah, but he never came into the office.
Oh.
The Allied group came into the office.
Did you ever reconcile the number of ballots with a vote tally and the number of votes used to certify the election in 2020? Did you ever
Yes,
reconcile the number of ballots with the vote tally and the number of votes used to certify the election in 2020?
yep,
So the answer is yes.
yes.
So that was done. Okay.
Yeah, the total number of votes cast in 2020 were 16,044.
And then when at first, that was it Star Township or what township came in with a whole bunch of Democrats that was more than, do you remember that?
I remember we had doubled the one township
Doesn't matter. We got about
Yeah,
10 minutes
yeah,
left
it
here.
was,
I
it was
think,
double published, which I talked about earlier.
yeah, yeah. So we've covered but you want this job again now. What is it? You were going to retire, and I circulated a news article from August
Mhm.
when you decided you might run for re-election again, even though you decided to retire. Why did you decide to retire, and why did you decide to be a candidate again?
Well, when I filed my petition and my affidavit back in 2020, I said to my staff, this will be the last time I file a petition and an affidavit to run for county clerk. And why I said that is because I knew that by 2024, I would have worked for the county for 45 years.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, that's quite a long time. That maybe, you always want to know when time to retire is before everybody else
And there is
does.
another life out there too.
Exactly.
Right.
And I have 2 grandchildren, and my husband and I just celebrated our 40th anniversary. And I just felt like, okay, well, that's the
Enough.
role. That's the role.
Yeah.
And then in
And
2024, the filing deadline came down, and I was kind of shocked. I was very shocked to have 5 Republicans running for office.
Oh, okay. So that splits up the votes
It
too.
splits up the vote.
So the one who won, what percentage of the vote did they get?
She received 37% of the voters that voted.
Okay, so automatically in the past, if you win the primary election, you're in, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because there's no Democrats on the ballot. And
No.
there's no Democrats on the ballot now either, right?
No,
And you're going to run, you're not on a ballot though.
I'm not on the ballot. My deadline to get on the ballot was July 18th. Well, we hadn't had our primary yet.
Yeah.
I had endorsed a person, and then
Is that your assistant or somebody you knew?
No, it was somebody that had actually came in and spent 2.5 hours with me talking about the job.
Oh, okay.
And then there was another person that I would not have minded if that person would have gotten the position to be into the primary as
But you're
the
not
candidate.
comfortable with a candidate that's going to be automatically clerk.
Correct.
So you want to
So what
give the public a
happened?
chance to vote.
So what happened is if I would have done the 18th of July, it would have been very possible that the person I endorsed, I could have been against
Okay.
on the ballot.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense to me. So, and I waited a couple weeks after the primary was certified before I made my decision. Because,
So what's happening now?
now I am a no party affiliation, write-in candidate for the Antrim County Clerk.
Running nonpartisan with a Republican in a Republican county is 1 strike against you.
Correct.
And then to run to train everybody to write your name in, that's 2 strikes against you.
It is.
Now, I saw Kirk Gibson to hit a home run when I think he won the World Series or something. I mean,
Yeah.
so it is possible to hit a home run.
It is.
Even though you got 2 strikes against you, but the odds are that not that many people.
It's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And my campaign is working hard, and we are getting the word out there. We have signs, we have mailings. We just are putting our energy towards a write-in success. And we do realize that it is hard task to fulfill, but I fear the change in the legacy of the county clerk's office under an election denier.
Well, yeah,
is just something that I'm too conscientious. And after working there for 45 years, to let that happen
an
to the
election
legacy.
denier does not believe in the system of elections that we have now, and they want to change, but often they don't say what they want to change, but they just want, they say, don't trust this election.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Or, or to try and do things that are unlawful, as far as removing people,
Oh,
as far as hand counting ballots. There's
Yeah.
procedures and laws that regulate how and when things are done, and the county clerk does not have that power.
well, if you never had a job that was in this realm,
Mhm.
how long would it take you to learn what a county clerk does and what the laws are involved? I mean, do you,
Years,
years?
because the laws are forever changing. Early voting brought in a tremendous amount of changes and put a burden on the local clerks especially,
Mhm.
because not only is it 9 full days, but they're preparing, it's another whole election on top of the election to come on the following Tuesday when it's over. And the early election voting process or election can't be closed out until election night at the same time.
I see.
So they're closing out election day and election night at the same time.
Mhm.
So therefore, the townships are trying to close two different elections and trying to get those results all tied down.
Just to be clear, because of the change in the law this year, we're counting absentee ballots as if it were an election that's going to have its own totals, and then you're adding that to
Well,
what the machines come up with?
no,
Or-
only the townships that have an absentee counting board will
Oh,
have that third envelope. Um, Periodically throughout the day in the lulls of your activity of voters coming in, the absentee ballots will come out.
I'm getting a headache just thinking
I
about this.
know, they do.
What
They,
about,
they come out and they're processed. So Republican and Democrat work together and they process the ballots through the tabulator.
well, candidates need to let the people know what they know and what they don't know. And I think you know a lot about this system, but do you really think your opponent is an election denier? Or I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess that's another issue.
Well,
that
and for one thing,
people have to decide for
they have to
themselves.
decide for themselves and do your homework. The candidate nominee in the position, the county clerk that I'm running for as a write-in is 78 years old.
Your opponent is 78 years old?
Yes, and she's using a picture of about 50. And
And
then to me, that's deceit. That
well,
is number one, misleading your registered
I'll
voters.
tell you what, my experience, you don't win elections, you get a big responsibility dumped on you. And
Yeah.
I'm 73, and I would not want to learn all these laws that,
Mm.
you know, at age 78. I
Right.
think that would be prohibitive.
Well,
I mean,
and we're talking about right now just elections. What about all the other
the record
duties?
keeping and
The record
the birth
keeping, the
and
births, the marriages, the vital records, the DBA. There are so many other things, with the courts that we're responsible for that have reporting demands. And all the recording of the various committees. The county clerk is the secretary to the Sanitation Board of Appeals.
right.
Which, that's the duty and that's what we do.
Yeah,
But when you try and, rationalize it, what do I know about drain fields and wells,
right. Yeah.
and soils? But that's our duty. That is our job. That is the statute.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of committees like that you just aren't sure that you would
Well,
ever know about
yeah,
those things.
yeah, it's a crapshoot. If you've never had a job in this election business, well, been a
All of the
clerk,
business, yes.
yeah, it's like any business.
Right.
Every business, to be any good at it, you've got to commit to a big learning process. And I think if your opponent, if the current nominee gets the position, that's not a victory so much as a responsibility. And I think that's a risky thing.
Well, it is because there are a lot of things that you're responsible for that you cannot learn
Mhm.
immediately.
Right, right.
And
Let's
we'll
wrap
see
this
what
up. Let's
happens.
wrap
We'll
this
see
up.
what
Let's
happens.
see if we cover, and do we have any more questions, Joe?
Looks like one or two more there if you scroll down.
Well, there's a few more.
Yeah.
Did you ever, yeah, okay.
Did you give access
Is
to
it
your
on-
equipment? No.
Is it not?
Haldeman never had access to the equipment.
Oh, he didn't have access to
No.
equipment. Okay.
Never reconciled the number.
Why are candidates not getting information on the rejected AV ballots? Prop 2 specifically says that voters should be able to track that their ballots are accepted, yet the report is now omitting the information. Do you know what they're talking about?
Yeah, I do. When a local clerk gets the application to vote absentee, they record it. When they mail that out, the ballot to the applicant, they record it. When then the applicant of the ballot can go onto a website and see that, yes, the clerk received it, the clerk mailed it, and it should be coming to me. And then once it gets to them and delivered, then it's recorded again, all the way from application to clerk getting the voted ballot back and recorded. So that's a tracking process that is fairly new with the Bureau of Elections.
So there's likely to be bugs, but it's going to be better in the going forward.
And I think too, the ballots came out on the 26th. And the applications have been coming in prior to that.
Yeah.
Because you have your permanent ballot list, you have your new people asking for an absentee ballot. And our local clerks are only so many people in their office. Milton Township in 2 days processed 400 absentee ballots.
Wow.
Which that's a lot of recording and stuffing and, inserting everything that needs to go into that envelope.
This question reminded me of something that's bothered me. I've listened to a radio broadcast where the broadcaster was advocating that people go get absentee ballots and not open the ballots and then not do anything with them and then go vote personally. And he said, we got to get 5 people to do this process, and then we can get a class action suit. And I have no idea what he was talking about, but
yeah,
I think that there's a whole lot of people that are just itching to discredit our election process. And quite honestly, I think January 6th was the ultimate discrediting of our system of elections, to have that many people who want to totally disrupt the proceeding. It's like the election process isn't important. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like.
And the genie's out of the bottle. Once you saw, all of the counties in Michigan, they have pockets of groups of people that cause conflict and promote negativity, and you can't stop it.
Right.
The thing is when you have a group of people who are promoting January 6th, who are promoting fundraising to send people to January 6th.
Right.
And then we saw not an event, it was total horror what happened to our capital, which is to me, sacred ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is what's happening all over is
I mean,
there are no filters of respect. And you and I need to
for a due
accept it.
process.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Therefore, as many hours as you work to make your election successful, you will never satisfy some of these people.
right.
And they won't care what goes into it, but they're there to critique it or to find negativity in it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we had a perfect system, how many people would object to it? You know, I mean, we, I think the elections are pretty darn safe because, you know, theoretically you could have one system for the whole state and they all use the same computers and everything, but that's vulnerable to a bad guy flipping a switch, or
No.
this would be like having the president press the red button where you depend on one person, you know. So the fact that we've got 1,500 clerks and boards watching those clerks and canvassers watching that process, those are safeguards and double safeguards and things like that. So I feel pretty good about the people that are working the elections.
Well,
I'm
not
not, I'm
only,
not happy about the language of people repeating lies that are, I mean, we're talking about lies. And Fox News admitted
yeah,
they lied because they got better
ratings.
And this, oh, what's his name? Running for vice president.
Vance.
Yeah, he admitted that he lied about the eating the cats and stuff because he would get publicity. And how does that happen? How is it that we're forgiving of that, but we're not forgiving of election workers that make
Honest
mistakes?
mistakes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I can honestly say that you work as hard as you can to do your due diligence. I'm not a political person. I never have been. You got to be one party or another to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're Republican. The Republican Party in my county, I would not be a part of today.
Yeah. Well, I know we kicked
Yeah.
the governor out of in Grand Traverse County. They voted to eject Bill Milliken, who was the governor for more years than anybody, I
Right.
think, and he did a good job. But the Republicans in Grand Traverse County said, no, we don't like him anymore, so he's out of the party. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of I mean, people say local government is better, and I frankly I like local government, but boy, there's limits. I
Right.
mean,
And we should all agree to disagree.
right.
And if it's misinformation, you know, we should be calling it out, but
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Okay. I guess we've covered this. Why should anybody vote for you? That's my question.
Oh, well, I'm 63 years old.
Mhm.
You know, I was retiring because I had said what I said about this will be the last time, and I want to know when it's time to retire before my staff does.
Right.
You know, she's losing her screws or something. You know, I didn't want to be that way. And then I thought after 45
Well, no,
years.
as a voter, why would somebody vote for you rather than your opponent?
Well, I would say because I've been there, I know the job. I am honest. I do make mistakes, but I own them as quick as I make them.
Okay.
I'm not party driven. I have no axe to grind politically.
Yeah.
I was born in Bel Air. I never moved out of Bel Air.
And people know you.
I have been a resident my whole entire life, which is the 63.
Well,
And
that's pretty good, I guess.
I have moral values. I'm not going to deceit or betray.
Well, I don't want you to compare yourself to your opponent. Specifically, she's not here. And I don't know if she wants to be on TV. Maybe she wants to call me up.
Hey, I think that's a great idea. But I have truth and integrity, and that has never wavered through the worst of these past 4 years.
Yeah.
I've never wavered. I've always owned it.
Well, good luck with it. I really appreciate your coming in
Thank you.
and clearing the air, because I don't know many programs where this can happen. Public access TV is one of the few areas where you can actually have a conversation, and as long as whether anybody wants to listen or not,
Right.
you can put it out there, and it's up to them to listen or not.
Well, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on and speak with you frankly about, my
Well,
past
there's a
and
big-
my future.
Yeah, I talked to you a couple times, and
Mhm.
and all I could think of, this is really complex. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't have a bunch of people on and cover your subject. It's just too complicated,
It is complicated, and
Let me just thank you.
yeah, good deal.
I think we better wrap it up, and I appreciate anybody that's watched this so long that they're still here. Congratulations, and thank you for your attention.